Yeah.
and we end up in Glasgow.
Oh, in Glasgow. Yeah, I have my aunt lived
I
there.
think your mark is
Oh,
on.
really?
Yeah,
I think your mic
And
is on.
I go to Edinburgh from there.
I think he turned.
So is he going back there? You know, this isn't church. You can come up to the front if you want to come up, but you'll hear us anyway. I wanted to get started because I promised that this would be only a half an hour, and somebody said that's even too long. So I'm going to try real quick to get this through. And if there's, you see the mic in the middle there, that's in case any of you have any questions. We have to have the mic, although we'll probably hear you because it doesn't get recorded without it. So if you have something you want to speak to the whole group about, you can approach the mic. My name is Suzanne Cornell, and I'm the senior warden here. And when I said, yes, I can do one more year of being senior warden, that'll be my last for my lifetime. And then he announced, Father Kevin announced he was retiring. And then I said, oh, that changes the whole thing, doesn't it? But, and I'm not used to running these kind of things. I could be better off talking to you about how to factor polynomials. But this one might be a little bit more useful than that in your life. So I hope that we can explain this transition process to you. The first thing I wanted to say was that first thing I want to do is introduce the vestry, because they're all up here and they know everything as well. So if you have a question later, you can ask any one of them. So starting over, and we are not segregated by sex over here. But anyway, we have Jon Prill, represents our 8 o'clock. Ben Karbowsk is one of our servers. McKellar is usher, coffee member, and other things. And Steve Waring, who's been here almost as long as I have. On this side, over here, we have Father Allen. I couldn't see him, but he's here too. Fred Kaems is on the vestry. Marge Larson is our treasurer and recorder. Mary Hinderliter is on the vestry. And then my junior warden over here hiding is Howard Hutchinson. So we're all here. That's everybody, and that's what happens a lot. I've been real impressed. We don't have to even take attendance at vestry meetings anymore. Of course, the fact that half of them are in Zoom helps too. But I did want to say that when we first started looking at this whole process, we have the help of Jim Gettle, who is our consultant, as well as one of our members, so it's been very handy. It's been 15 years since we thought about looking for a new rector. And so things have changed a little bit since then. The most obvious change is that we've changed from Milwaukee into Wisconsin. So some of the methods have changed a little bit. The other thing is that even the structure of our own congregation has changed with when we move the corporation now into the vestry. And I know I'm going to say chapter, so just deal with me. Into the vestry as well. That's a difference in the way we run our own church. As well as if you look around, there's just been changes within our own congregation and the way we do things. So with all those changes going on, the first thing everybody who's done this before 15 years ago said, well, we're going to do a search. And my husband is a headhunter, so you put an ad in the paper, we'll get a new priest. Doesn't work like that. And so Jim Gettle did have to counsel me and say, this isn't an overnight process. So the first thing he said is that you have to say goodbye to your rector. And so I think we did a very nice farewell celebration for him. I was very pleased with the way it went off and so thankful for all the committee members who put their time into it. I'd love to say their names, but I'll forget somebody. So you know who you are. Thanks a lot. I think it was well deserved. I think he was pleased, and I'm very glad that we pulled that off. And the next thing that was high on our list of things to worry about is an interim rector. And I have to thank Father Jon for taking that role on and allowing us to just continue with our worship. That would have been the hardest thing if we had to go every week trying to find a different priest to do this. So thank you so much, Father Jon, for agreeing to do that. Now, unlike what we've done in the past, we started with a search committee. Well, that's a little later down the road right now. So the first thing, just like Father said in his in his sermon. The first thing we need to do is decide who we are, and be able to present that in a way so that's the first step. And so what we're going to be doing, starting with, is a profile committee. And that profile committee is going to look at some of the things we've done over the past. I mean, we've had, some of you were participating in the Holy Conversations, and the Vestry has done mutual ministry reviews for the different kinds of committees that we have. And that was all under Father Kevin's tutelage, making sure we were looking at ourselves and deciding our goals. And the 150th celebration also made us look ahead and say, okay, well, what do we see in our future? And so we also have another committee that's been ongoing now for a little over a year that's called the Community Outreach Committee. And in that case, what they're looking at is, what are some of the assets around our community? How could we partner up with some of the other things that are going on? We realized that we were kind of letting things go a little bit, and some of those was maybe outreach, evangelism, whatever you want to call it, but that we need to start looking at different kinds of goals for ourselves, and that's what we were starting to do in Vestry. And we'll continue to do that. But we've done some of that research already. So the first step is to write a profile of who we are, what our mission is, what we represent, what do we find important. And so Mary Hinderliter has, I don't know if she volunteered exactly, but she's stepped up to chair that committee. So she's going to talk a little bit more about that portion. Mary?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. So, as Sue mentioned, the big question is, who are we? And I mean, we all have different opinions of that, but it's really important that we can put it into a narrative, put it into a concise story about who we are. And so that's part of the discernment process that we'll be going through, but then that serves as a way that we are going to let people who might be interested in being our next dean and priest here come to us. As Father has already said, that person is chosen, but these are some of the mechanics that we have to do to make sure we're connected. So Jim Gettle explained the process to us. We're still learning some of the facets, but there are two kind of key outputs that we will be creating on the profile team. One is called a narrative parish profile. So that'll probably be a couple page, concise picture of us. And then another one is called the Office of Transition Ministry Community Portfolio. So you'll probably see that written, and then we'll start using acronyms for everything for a while. But what we as a profile committee will do is we'll pull from things we already have existing, such as we worked on our vision and values several years ago. We have things that are on our website. Sue mentioned the 150th celebration we had a couple years ago. We did a lot of great groundwork to sort of look back at our history, to think of who we are today, and who do we want to be in the future. And those three elements are really important to sort of communicating what we're all about. That process is kind of earlier in this whole call process. We have to get that done before we really focus on the search. So that's going to be, work is going to work on that in the fall here. And we need kind of a smallish committee, maybe 5 to 7 people who can be helping put that together. Jim will be our consultant through the process. He said, I'm not going to write it for you. So he said, okay. He will give us some samples and templates, so we'll have some guidance from him. And then Sue will go on to the next step to talk about other parts of the process, but if you're interested in joining the committee, please reach out to me. Thank you.
After that, there's something else that Jim Gettle has talked to us about, and it's something called, and this has an acronym too, Congregation Assessment Tool. And it's an online survey, we're going to just call it the CAT from now on, that'll be done from everybody so that we're sure that as an individual, we've gotten all your ideas, and it covers a lot of bases. Not only who we are, who we are, but also what some of us are thinking about for our new rector. He said it's good that we have a certain amount of time before we do that, because he said too often when you do it too soon after your previous rector, left, that you just say, well, we just want another one like him. So this will give us time, and he said it'll get everybody's point of view. So and there will be a a written evaluation of that survey, and that, because of Advent, not because, but it's a little hard to get a lot of engagement while we're also worried about all the different services and portions of this upcoming season. So that CAT survey will be done in January, and it'll be done online. We can help people here. We have computers here that we can do. If it doesn't work out well for you, you probably can do it on your phone too, most of the time. But that's the next step. And so when we get the results of that, we'll already have the profile, at least the draft of it. So whatever we might have missed, or maybe something we didn't emphasize that turned out to be a strong feeling amongst all of our parishioners, we can add that, and then the profile will be done. It'll also include in there what are the qualities we are looking for our new rector as well. So all of that is the profile, and all that stuff needs to be done before. Now, the other thing that needs to be done, and it probably goes unspoken, is how much can we afford to pay? And so it meant that we can't wait till November to start the stewardship campaign that we've been having a little trouble with lately. And so out of the blue, Steve Waring stepped up and said, I'll chair that committee. And of course he'll have help from Marge, our treasurer, but he's going to talk a little bit, because he's going to need a little help on that one, so he's going to talk a little bit about our stewardship campaign so that we can figure out how much we can afford to pay a new priest. Steve?
Good morning. Thanks for being here. So it is true what Sue said. I did volunteer out of the blue, although I wasn't the blue for me. I thought about it for a while. But I want to stress the interconnectedness of everything we're talking about this morning at this meeting. The profile, what we would like in a rector, that is dependent on what we can afford too. So anyone who in the past has served on a stewardship campaign committee, either here at All Saints or at another parish, please get in touch with me. My contact information will be published in the bulletin next Sunday, and thank you for considering.
The other thing that I just did want to talk about, we all know that we're still trying to decide what to do with the Nicholson house. But wasn't it nice to have the reception there after Father's farewell? I mean, it gave us our first chance to see what it would look like. But anyway, that's an ongoing committee, and I know they met last week. And Greg, did you say anything about that? Let's see if the mic works over there if you want.
Hi everybody, I'm Greg. If we haven't met, hi. But we started the committee last week to look at the different uses of the Nicholson House, and so we have a wide range of talents and people on that committee, but if you do have any other ideas, we're open to hear them out and vet them as we go through that process. And then I think you wanted me to talk about ABCD. Yeah, so it was a little over a year ago, Father Kevin and Jim Gettle put together a training module called Asset-Based Community Development. And we went through it for several months on classes and online training on what it looks like when churches open their doors to the community. As in the past, the model for building churches is you build a really great place with awesome music and great people, and people will just come. And that's no longer the case. So how can we outreach to other people and use the assets that we already have rather than just starting another food program that takes resources or things like that? Let's join forces with other things that are already in our community that may need things that we already have, and then could give and help as a community rather than just as a single entity. And so we're also continuing that. You know, we've started a Bible study, and then Chris is going to be starting a knitting group this fall as small groups to really start building that community within the church, so then eventually we can take that outside.
And also, that committee is looking for a few more members, so if you think, boy, that sounds kind of interesting, you can talk to Greg or Chris McKellar and maybe join that group as well. I had to drop out. It seemed like I had hit overload. So, but that doesn't mean, you know, we could use a few more people to go out and do this kind of thing. So think about it. As we've been talking, we're hearing a lot of please consider volunteering. And I was listening to the sermon today, and I thought I heard that in there too. You know that, you know, what can you do? How can you be involved in this? We're a whole community here. And so think about it prayerfully and decide where you might be able to fit in. Many people have talked to me about the thing that we're most used to, because the next step after we get all of this done is that's when we publish our ad, so to speak, and say this is what we want, this is what we can pay, this is what we can provide, and this is what we're hoping to get. And so that'll be coming in spring. But then after that, then that's when we start receiving the applications of people who would be interested in having this position. And that's when we'll form the final search committee that will then look over the applications and see who God has called to be our rector. So the microphone's out there, so if that's not all perfectly clear and you have one more question out there, we're willing to try and answer. Anybody with a question? Okay, Lynn.
Would you publish the...
I'll pass the microphone around because this is being taped. But I'm happy to... No. Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'll just stand.
I just wonder if you published a list of the committees and a brief description so we could all take a look and then think about it.
Okay, and I think Steve mentioned too about contact information for the different people.
Yeah.
So somebody will put that together for the next bulletin and maybe send it out as a email also. Anybody else? Thank you, Lynn. No? Well, thank you. And I know there's peach cobbler waiting out there, so go on and let's have our regular coffee hour, as they call it, the third service or whatever. Thank you. Don't forget, next week, back to normal, 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Or 9 o'clock if you want to come to the meeting on the pig roast. But anyway, thank you very much.